Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT9, and BT9 offers us lots of new and powerful cards to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration on the Belle Starman deck. So for those who are unfamiliar with the Belle Starman deck and what it's doing, essentially it's your classic purple deck where it wants to try to fill up your trash as quickly and efficiently as you possibly can to be able to utilize Belle Starman to be able to pull out your options and utilize said options while making her cheaper all at the same time. So we don't really need to run any level 5s in the deck as a result, so we're just going to be utilizing our low-end cards to try to chip out the opponent while gain us some solid resource generation to be able to line up Belle Starmons, and we're going to try to reuse our Belle Starmons as often as we possibly can, so we could reuse our options as often as we possibly can. So without further ado, on to the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of DemiMeramon as the main Digitama. So I do personally prefer the drawing and discarding over the self-milling, just so I could selectively try to fill up my trash with what I want and try to cycle through my deck a little bit faster to make my hands a little bit better as well. So DemiMeramon's on delete ability is really good for this because, well, it allows us to draw a card and then trash one card from our hand to easily set up everything that we're trying to do. And if you wanted to run a 5th Digitama, you could, and it is kind of a flex spot where it could be anything you feel like you would need it to be. So I'm going to be running 1 copy of the starter deck Pagumon just to try to help fill up our trash a little bit faster. Even though it is just raw milling us, and I'm not a huge fan of that, sometimes you do just need to get your trash in a particular state, and the milling could actually help. So it has an on-delete ability where we get to trash the top 2 cards of our deck to combo off with trying to have our lower level Digimon delete themselves through just trying to chip at the opponent or sacrificing them to various different card effects. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gazimon. So Gazimon is an anti-meta floodgate card, so the opponent is going to usually want to try to deal with Gazimon in order to make some of their plays more efficient or effective. So what Gazimon is doing more specifically is during all turns, your opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects, limiting the amount of memory gain that they have off of their Digimon and options could really be detrimental to them, especially if they don't have a way to be able to effectively clear Gazimon, forcing the opponent to come up with alternative lines of play, which is the whole intention on what we're trying to do. And similarly to that, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Psychemon as another anti-meta floodgate. So he has the All Turns ability where players can't reduce their play costs. This does include you, but it does include the opponent as well, to again try to force the opponent to get rid of Psychemon if they want to make certain lines of play a little bit more efficient. And because we're in purple and we're the ones controlling the card, we have easier ways to get rid of it ourselves to be able to utilize our Belle Starman, like A, digivolving, or B, sacrificing it to card effects, or C, trying to swing into the opponent's security chip and hope it doesn't survive. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the starter deck version of Gabumon, and this is a really good card because it's continuing with our looting type of abilities to try to help fill up our trash and cycle through our deck. So he has a when attacking ability where we get to draw 1 card and then discard 1 card to further enhance our overall game plan and strategy. And similarly to that, I'm also going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the BT02 version of Gabumon, and again, it's just a doubling down on that looting type of ability, except this time, instead of a when attacking ability, it's going to be on an on-delete inheritable ability, where we get to draw 2 cards and then discard 1 card from our hand, which pairs up nicely with our DemiMeramon and our Pagumon to be able to try to fill up our trash relatively quickly and efficiently while still seeing cards. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Gabumon XAntibodies. The cool part about it is it has the alternative Digivolution condition where we could Digivolve it for 0 on top of our Gabumons to make our Gabumon's inheritable abilities as effective as we possibly can. We don't necessarily care about the ability where we're going to be digging out our XAntibodies and our Gabumon/Omnimons, but it could come in handy in case you're trying to look for that or you tech the deck it to accommodate it a little bit better. But what the other benefit of utilizing this card for is the fact that it is another blue source to make utilizing our blue options a little bit easier. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Eismon Scatter Mode. So Eismon Scatter Mode is still just that good of a resource engine for us to utilize because its on-delete ability states that we get to draw 3 cards and then discard 2 cards. So if we use this in combination with BT2 Gabumon and in combination with our main egg DemiMeramon, then we're going to be drawing 6 cards and discarding 4, which is just not only seeing a lot of cards for us to use, but a lot of cards for us to selectively fill up our trash with, so that way we could try to make our Belle Starman online as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Vilemon. So Vilemon is going to be the deck's dedicated blocker, and we still want a blocker because there is going to potentially be a lot of early game aggression that we could be facing, and Vilemon is a good card to help shut some of that off the best that he can. Even though, yes, there is just a lot of blocker hate for level 4 blockers, Purple doesn't necessarily care because we have ways to recur our blockers, so even if this card does die, we have ways to bring it back, making him just a very valuable card for the deck to use defensively. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ginkakumon Promote. So Kinkakumon Promote is a pretty good card for this deck to use just because he has 2 different ways that we could actually Digivolve him, where we could Digivolve him for 2 on top of a level 3, or Digivolve him for 1 on top of a level 4, so that just allows us to utilize him differently, on top of the fact that he naturally has the rush ability, so that way whenever he's going to be hitting the field, then he could swing right away with. And on top of that, he has an on-play ability, which we're almost never going to use, but he does have 6000 DP, which is pretty decent for a level 4 body. And then the last champion for the deck is going to be 2 copies of Doberman. So Doberman is another really fantastic card to try to help fill up our trash and actually add selective cards from our trash back into our hand for us to reuse. So even though we're not going to be playing Alice to reduce its play cost, we do care about the on-delete ability where we get to trash 3 cards from our deck, so we could combine this with Pagumon to trash 5 cards from our deck, which is pretty nice on top of any other on-delete abilities or when attacking abilities we could pair up with them. And then we get to return 1 purple Digimon or purple Tamer from our trash back into our hand, which allows us to be able to grab back our Belle Starman to be able to reuse our Belle Starman again and again. And speaking of our Belle Starman, next I'm going to be running 4 copies of Belle Starman as the only level 6 in the deck. So what this card's doing to allow us to basically skip all of those levels and just have easy access at playing her is the fact that when playing this card from our hand, we get to reduce the play cost by 1 for each 3 Musketeer and option that costs 7 are in our trash. So the more 3 Musketeers and options are in our trash, the cheaper she's going to be. And the reason why we want to play her, especially as cheaply and efficiently as we possibly can, is for her on-play ability, where we get to return 1 option card with a memory cost of 7 from our trash back into our hand, and then we get to use 1 option card with a memory cost of 7 from our hand for free. So basically, the more we can reduce her, the easier it is to play, to be able to grab back an option and replay that option to try to control the opponent's field. And then lastly, on to the level 7s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Death Exmon. So Death Exmon is an absolute insane card because it is another card that we could just have easy access to hard play, and we don't even need to Digivolve into it at all, unless we really, really want to, because, you know, we're just going to be sitting on a level 6 on our field. But what's making this card easier to play is the fact that when you would play this card from your hand, you get to reduce its play cost by 3 for each of the opponent's Digimon and Tamers in play. So the wider field that they have, the easier it is to be able to play this card, and it has an on-play/win Digivolving ability where we get to de-Digivolve 1 on all of the opponent's Digimon, and then we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon that's level 4 or below, which is acting as a solid mini board wipe, on top of the fact that it has some recursive removal. The longer this card stays, it makes it harder for the opponent to actually maintain a field, because at the end of the opponent's turn, once per turn, we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So just recursive removal on top of a big board wipe, on top of the fact that this card makes himself easier to play, makes him a very desirable card for the deck. And then the last Digimon and last level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Omnimon's Zwart Defeat. So Omnimon Zwart Defeat is just another insane level 7 for us to use because, well, he's another level 7 that easily can play himself when he's in the security, because he has the security ability where this card can play himself for free, even though he's not going to be doing anything in that security battle against the opponent's Digimon. Just the fact that free level 7s is really good, on top of the fact that we could still Digivolve him on top of Belle Starman to be able to get his when Digivolving ability off, to be able to delete one of the opponent's tamers, acting as some solid tamer hate for the deck to utilize as well, on top of the fact that he does have an on-delete ability, where he gets to delete one of the opponent's Digimon for even more control for us just utilizing this card in various different ways. And then as far as the options go, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Calling from the Darkness because, well, this is just another really good card to try to trigger some of our on-delete abilities ourselves. It has the main ability where we get to delete one of our Digimon, and then we get to return up to 2 purple Digimon from our trash back into our hand, and the crazy part is, if we don't even have any Digimon on the field, then we could still use this card to add 2 purple Digimon back into our hand, which Death Exmon and Belle Starman are probably 2 of the better purple cards that we want to return back to our hand with. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Fly Bullet. So Fly Bullet is going to be one of the 7 costed option cards to synergize with our Belle Starman. It has the main ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon that's level 6 or lower, to try to be able to delete almost anything that we need to be deleted, with the security ability of activating its main. So our security is also going to be very threatening for the opponent to attack into, just because we have all of these different options that could trigger. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Happy Bullet Showering. So Happy Bullet Showering, again, is another 3 Musketeer based option, so we could play it with our Belle Starman and not worry about its color requirements. Then it's another 7 costed option for our Belle Starman to use, with the main ability to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP, acting as some more good control and removal. Then its security, like Fly Bullet, activates its main, so again, it's just another possible security threat that the opponent is going to have to worry about. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Trump Sword, and Trump Sword, you guessed it, is just another removal card for us to use that also is a purple option that costs 7, synergizing with our Belle Starman. And what this card's main ability is doing is it allows us to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon for some extra control in an alternative way. Then, again, its security ability makes it another security threat of activating its main. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Nailbone as another 7 costed option in purple for our Belle Starman to use. So what this card is doing is it's acting as our revival engine, so we could use this in combination with Belle Starman to be able to spawn extra bodies on the field to create some really powerful board states. So its main ability states that we get to play a purple level 3 Digimon and a purple level 4 Digimon from our trash for free, but they don't get any on-play effects, which is fine because none of them actually have any on-play effects to begin with. And its security ability is still pretty good, just because it is spawning a Digimon at least out of our security, where we get to play 1 purple level 4 or lower from our trash for free, acting as another security threat for them to worry about, just because we could use that extra body to pressure the opponent the following turn with, or act as another resource engine to try to continue our own game plan. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Kichitis Breath. So Kichitis Breath is just rounding out all of the different removal types that we're going to be playing around with. And yes, even though it's a blue option, we do have a blue tamer, and we do have Gabumon XAntibody to be able to utilize this card with. So that way, because it's a 7 costed option, our Belle Starman will still be able to at least grab it back, even though we do need that blue source to be able to play it. But what this card is doing is it allows us to return one of the opponent's Digimon back to their hand outright, regardless of level, so it's just another alternative form of removal for the deck to use, with the security ability of activating its main, so it's still just, again, another security threat the opponent is going to have to worry about. And then the last card and only tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Kyoshiro. So this is the BT9 version of Kyoshiro, and he's going to be the blue tamer to be able to utilize our Kichitis Breath or various other blue options a little bit easier. And on top of that, he's going to be acting as the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer, so that way if your memory is ever less than 3, he'll just always hard set it to 3, which is really good to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can. Then what this card is doing for the deck, outside of the fact that he's going to be the blue tamer, is he does have an ability that helps us draw cards, where during your turn, when you attack with a Digimon with Jellymon in its name, or a level 5 or higher Digimon, if you have 7 or less cards in your hand, then we get to suspend this tamer to draw a card. So we could use this in combination with any of our level 7s or our level 6 to be able to help us with our card draw, just because Belle Starman isn't digivolving a lot, so we're trying to rely alternatively on trying to figure out how to draw cards, making this one of the most desirable tamers for the deck to use. And then there's still just a whole bunch of different tech and tools that you could put in the deck to really customize it and make it your own based on what the meta is going to be asking from us with our different matchups, on top of what you personally want to play and gain out of the deck. So if you want to lean a little bit more into the whole self-mill aspect, then we do have some cards that reward us for doing so, like Gazimon XAntibody to use off of our Gazimon, and more Intmons, so that way we could try to mill off of our Intmons. But we do also have an Intmon to help it with our discard-based energy if you want to lean heavier into that, to be able to grab back our Belle Starman or our Beelzemon if you want to run an alternative level 6. Then on top of that, we do have Sound Birdmon as a good card to just gain some extra memory when we're attacking with him, to try to A, chip at the opponent, and B, put an option from our hand into our trash for our Belle Starman to use to make herself cheaper. Then we do have Labramon as just another good card to play while we're hiding something and raising, to be able to draw and discard as well, with Dracmon being a really good card to grab back our options that cost 1 or 7. Then if you wanted to tech in one copy of Eismon to combo with your Eismon Scatter Mode, then it's a really good card for that synergy, on top of the fact that we do have the Classic Collection Ogremon to be extra aggressive with, because when we swing with him, we get to discard a card and give him Security Attack +1 to be able to punch the opponent's security kind of hard at an early level. Then if you want to recycle the cards in your trash to reuse later and you're able to reset your engine, Avenge Kidmon is a fantastic card at being able to use the same type of tools as Belle Starman to make them really, really cheap. But it does kind of counteract what Belle Starman's trying to do, where you want to keep your options in your trash, where he's going to be filling them back in your deck, but if you don't have any other plays, then it's not necessarily a bad play to think about. On top of the fact that we do have various other options that we could tech in to really customize our option package. So we do have Gwalt Schwarmer as another 3 Musketeer option, acting as another way to board wipe the opponent's low-level Digimon. Then we do have Howling Crusher as another fantastic blue option for us to lean into to try to clear out the opponent's inheritable stacks in case they have lots of problematic inheritable abilities. And we do have other ways to gain extra resources, so we do have Jack Raid to take advantage of the fact that we could have a nice full trash to gain some memory, or if you're going more into that self-mill direction, then we do have Mist Memory Boost as another way to gain us extra memory while milling us cards, while drawing us cards all in one. Then if you just want a card to solidly straight up and mill your deck, that's also costing 1. Then we have Darkness Wave, and another really good removal option for the deck to use is going to be Deathclaw, also acting as another way to sacrifice our own Digimon to trigger their on-delete abilities. Then Red has a couple of other options that cost 7 for us to lean into, like Gigastorm and Transcendent Sword. And we also have Matt and Sora as another really good tamer for us to take advantage of in terms of being able to utilize different options of different colors easier. But if you just want to go more hardline into purple, then we do have Matt Ishida as a fantastic memory tamer that's also grabbing back our Digimons and options, while Mimi is also another good card to synergize with us being able to play our options, which actually could make our Belle Starman effectively cheaper, because we'll play our Belle Starman, grab back our option, use our option, and then gain memory off of Mimi. But if you just want a good generic tamer to play to try to help fill up your trash and look for specific parts and pieces, then Analog Youth is a really good card at accomplishing that goal, making for just a lot of different tech and tools for us to think about adopting. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation on a really solid core or shell of a Belle Starman deck in BT9 for you to adopt, change, and customize it to your liking, and I think that Belle Starman is going to be one of the better control decks to be playing in BT9. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.